Hello, 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 and welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have a lot to cover. It's been a slow news day. To be perfectly honest, this past week, it's been slow, it's been grueling. There hasn't been a whole lot of interest stuff to talk about. Yeah, we got some things to cover, we got some things to get into. Today is Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, and I should let you know our last show of season 3 of Spins Like Alive will be next Tuesday, 1 week from now. This show, Thursday, and the next Tuesday is the last of me you're going to see in 2025. That will be the end of season 3. We'll be coming back with season 4 starting in the new year. We will have lots of new stuff to cover. The show's going to get a nice little rebrand action going on with it. More to be announced shortly, so keep an eye out for all of that. But like I said, I hope you're doing good today. And I feel like it's always we always have to kind of get warmed up a little bit on this show. We have to kind of ease into things a little bit. I can't just throw you hard news starting right into it. I can't just throw it at you guys. So we're gonna ease into it today. We got a story that is a very positive one coming on the Daily Wire. So, the Daily Wire and Young Americans Foundation announces America 250 celebration. So, if you don't know, Young Americans for Freedom, YAF, or the Young Americans Foundation, is the organization that people like Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, they go around and tour with them, right? So if you want to get Ben Shapiro to go to your college campus, you gotta go through YAF. That's just how it is. It's how it's set up. There's a lot of logistics happening behind the scenes to get speakers to go to the campus. They don't show up. I should know. I've had a number of them that I've organized. So, grab your best red, white, and blue and get ready for some patriotism because the Daily Wire and Young Americans Foundation are coming together for an epic celebration of freedom in honor of America's 250th birthday. Your favorite Daily Wire hosts are hitting the road for freedom at 250, a series of rallies throughout America's semi quincentennial year meant that's quite the word meant to coincide with YAF's legendary student conference. Governor Scott Walker's, by the way, Governor Scott Walker, people forget that he's still a thing. Governor Scott Walker runs this organization, folks. Governor Scott Walker ran for president in 2016. We forget about Scott Walker all the time, and here he is. So Governor Scott Walker's YAF president said the group's partnership with the Daily Wire will help reach more students than ever before. Quote, while the radical left continues to attempts to demonize and undermine our nation's heritage and values, it is more important than ever to inspire and equip the rising generation with the informed patriotism President Reagan called for in his farewell address. Walker said, freedom that allowed America to flourish is special and rare, and its defense requires bold action. Governor Scott Walker, perfect man for this job, let me tell you. Maybe not so perfect president, perfect man for this job though. So Freedom at 250 will focus on our founders' revolutionary bid for independence, grounded in the belief that all people are created equal, with their rights coming from God rather than from government. Those beliefs survived a civil war, making the United States a more perfect union, liberating Europe from tyranny and taking down the Soviet Union's evil empire. Win after win after win for America, guys. America, greatest country on earth. The freedom so many before us fought for and defended has guided the United States for 250 years. That freedom is worth celebrating all year long. Michael Knowles, Cabot Phillips, Mary Margaret Olahan, and Reagan Conrad are already booked for Nashville's Freedom 250 rally in February at the historic Country Music Hall of Fame. After the tour kicks off in Music City, Freedom at 250 will make stops in Santa Barbara, California, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and more cities will be announced. Freedom at 250 builds on the Daily Wire and YAF's years-long collaboration to bring bold voices to students nationwide at YAF student conferences. The always anticipated narrative disrupting campus lectures will continue as part of Freedom at 250. So, I'm excited to see. I am so grateful for the bravery of these hosts to go out and continue to go and give speeches at conferences and go to college campuses, all this in light of what has happened in Charlie Kirk. I'm so, so grateful that they have the bravery to go and do this. I don't know if I could continue to go and do these things. I mean, even the Change My Mind guy. Oh my gosh, his name isn't coming to my mind. But he's still going out there. Gosh, I don't know why his name is escaping me. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue, I swear. But you guys know who I'm talking about. I almost said it. I almost said it. You can tell this show is live, folks. We're doing this all in one take because I forget names. But that's you love me because I'm real for that. I'm real because of that. So we all forget names here and there. Oh my gosh, I gotta look it up. I got it. Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder. Of course. Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder is going out there and doing Change My Mind. He's got bulletproof glass. Like, he's going out and doing. I don't know if I'd have the bravery to do that, folks. I don't know if I could. I'd like to sit here and act like I could. I'm not sure if I could. I don't think so. I'm not sure if I'd be brave enough to do that. One wrong move and you're dead, apparently, as we've seen. So, grateful for it. I hope that Ben Shapiro gets out there because I haven't seen a Ben Shapiro speech in a hot minute, and I'd like it. All right, so let's move on. It's Jasmine Crockett. So Jasmine Crockett's back in the news, folks. Jasmine Crockpot, as we like to call her. So Jasmine Crockpot files paperwork. Maybe we should call her Jasmine Crackpot. Files paperwork to run for U.S. Senate in Texas. Oh, how lovely. So Jasmine Crockett is entering the heated race to represent the Lone Star State in the United States Senate after much deliberation. Crockett filed last-minute paperwork to run in the Texas Democrat primary in March and is expected to announce her bid later on Monday, CBS News reported. It's hilarious to me that me saying that I will announce what I plan to do on December 8th, like I've been saying, is scaring the heck out of so many people. The attacks are hilarious. Note, to those who don't know how politics works, only the threat gets attacked. The Democrat posted on X last week. No kidding. No kidding, Jasmine Crockpot. Where were you at when Donald Trump was running for president? He was the one who was getting attacked left, right, and center, folks. Absolutely right. This is the first time I've ever heard Jasmine Crockett say something that I absolutely agree with. And frankly, honestly, I kind of agree with her, even what she's referencing here with her run for the Senate. I think that she actually is a genuine threat in Texas. I mean, we'll see, won't we, when Election Day rolls around. But I think she could have a shot. Texas has been moving a little more and more left over the years. Now, I don't think so. I wouldn't bet money on it. But I think she has a better shot than a lot of other Democrats out there. I'm just saying that. So, quote, again, my decision to go one way or another will be based upon facts and not feelings, historical data, trends, etc., she added. The 44-year-old congresswoman, she's only 44? She looks pretty good for 44. The 44-year-old congresswoman, who represents parts of the Dallas area, is considered a firebrand for her party as a vocal critic of President Donald Trump and a key surrogate of the 2024 campaign trail. Her entrance could potentially rally the Democrat base in the state and push her through the primary. Earlier on Monday, former Representative Colin Allard, who lost to Senator Ted Cruz in 2024, dropped out of the race amid the speculation that Crockett would likely jump in. Quote, I am deeply moved by my personal stories and trust that so many Texans have placed in me. I am forever grateful and believe it comes with heavy responsibility, Allard wrote in an X post. However, State Representative James Tallarico is standing firm in his bid for the Democrat nomination. We gotta look up James Tallarico for a second, because I feel like I recognize his name, and we gotta place the face to the name. Pull him up really quick. James Tallarico. Yes, this guy. I do recognize him. I forget exactly where he came along, but I remember he was saying something kind of nutso. I forget exactly what it was, but I know there was something he said that was just absolutely caca. that came out of his mouth. If y'all remember what it is, send it to me, because I'd like to see it again. I'll have to look up on my X page later. I'll repost if I can find it. So be on the lookout for that. So, quote, "We're building a movement in Texas fueled by record-breaking grassroots fundraising and 10,000 volunteers who are putting in the work to defeat the billionaire MAGA donors and puppet politicians who have taken over our state," Tellerico wrote in a Monday afternoon statement. Quote, "Our movement is rooted in unity over division, so we welcome Congresswoman Crockett into the race." That's really rich coming from the party who, we all know how the Democrat Party works. Whoever the nominee wants, whoever the DNC wants the nominee to be, that will be who the nominee is, right? We know this. We saw this with Joe Biden. We saw this with Kamala Harris. We saw this with Hillary Clinton. We saw this with a whole lot of other Democrat candidates, that whoever the DNC wants is who the DNC will get. Does not matter who people vote for. Doesn't. They'll send the money to who they want to be. Just saying. They'll make it happen. The Republicans are dunking it out for the nomination as Senator John Cornyn is facing off against Attorney General Ken Paxton and Representative Wesley Hunt. None of the men have received Trump's endorsement yet, and as the race has largely centered on who will be the best positioned to help the president execute his agenda during his last 2 years in office. Republicans currently hold 53 seats in the state. In the Senate, and the battle for Congress will be critical in determining the political direction of the Trump administration and a key indicator headed into 2028, the 2020 presidential race. In Texas, Trump won the state handedly in 2024, and the Cook Political Report considered the 2026 Senate race as likely Republican. I think that Ken Paxton's a good shot in Texas. I think that'll probably be who the nominee ends up being. Jasmine Crockett, Jasmine Crockpot, I think is going to end up as Jasmine Jobless going into 2026 or going into 2027, I guess I should say. I don't think she's going to make it. I think she'll lose by a few points, but I think it'll be a close race. I don't think it will just be a total wash for Ken Paxton. But let me be clear. Everyone needs to go out and vote in our elections. You need to go and vote, especially if you're conservative. You need to get out and vote, because 2026 is very critical for the Trump agenda. If you are pro-Trump in any way and want to see his agenda continue to be executed, you need to get out and vote, because it's important that we keep Congress. Because if we lose either the House or the Senate or both in 2026, you can call the Trump administration done. It is over with. The Trump administration will effectively come to a halt because no major piece of legislation that Trump wants to get done is going to pass through, because the Democrats will stop it. And Trump will get impeached again. Mark my words. He will get impeached. I'm saying it right here in this show. If Democrats win back the House, they will impeach him again. Maybe even twice. Maybe even 3 times. They've already done it several times already. Just saying. So, you got to get out and vote. Go and vote for your Republican candidate. Go and vote for the best person on the ticket. We have to keep Congress if we want to keep the agenda rolling along. And this has to continue going into 2028 so we can get another Republican into the White House. This has to be a multi-year thing to root out Washington, right? Trump is just the start of this, right? Trump is just the start of it. We need to have some good, solid Republican leadership for several years to actually turn some things around Washington, D.C. It's slowly beginning, but those things that have been turned around, they're not permanent yet, right? They're not. So we need to keep Congress. You need to keep getting good legislation passed through. All right. So the AP published an article entitled "Fed Likely to Lower Borrowing Costs This Week, but Follow-Up Rate Cuts Face Longer Odds." So the Fed lowering interest rates has been a big contentious issue of 2025. And it continues to be. So let's read through this. So the Federal Reserve faces an unusually contentious meeting this week that will test Chair Jerome Powell's ability to corral the necessary support from fellow policymakers for a third straight interest rate cut. The Fed's 19-member rate-setting committee is sharply divided over whether to lower borrowing costs again. The divisions have been exacerbated by the convoluted nature of the economy. inflation remains elevated, which would typically lead to the Fed to keep its key rate unchanged, while hiring is weak and the unemployment rate has risen, which often leads to rate cuts. Some economists expect 3 Fed officials could vote against the quarter-point cut that Powell is likely to support at the December 9th through 10th meeting, which would be the most dissenting votes in 6 years. Just 12 of the 19 members vote on rate decisions. Several of the non-voting officials have also said they oppose another rate cut. It's just a really tricky time. Perfectly sensible people can reach different answers, said William English, an economist at the Yale School of Management and a former top Fed staff member. Quote, and the committee kind of likes to work by consensus, but this is a situation where that consensus is hard to reach. The debate, which has also been fueled by a lack of official federal data on employment and inflation during the government shutdown, could be a preview of where the Fed is heading after Powell's term as chair ends in May. His successor will be appointed by President Donald Trump and is widely expected to be Kevin Hussant, the top White House economic advisor. Hussant may push for faster cuts than other officials would be willing to support. English said that the potential for greater disagreement could be seen as a sign of healthy debate between different views. The Fed's tradition of reaching unanimous or nearly unanimous decisions has been criticized by evidence of groupthink, yet some Fed officials warn that there are downsides to sharp slips. If the committee vote ends up as a 8-4, even 7-5, then financial markets could lose confidence in where the central bank is heading next. The president of the Kansas City Federal Reserve Bank, Jeffrey Schmidt, is expected to dissent for the second straight meeting in favor of keeping rates unchanged. He may be joined by St. Louis Fed President Alberto Maslum, Fed Governor Stephen Myron, who was hurriedly appointed to the Fed board by Trump in September, will likely assent for a third straight meeting in favor of a larger half-point reduction in the Fed's key rate. So, look, I'm in the minority of people, I feel like, on the right who actually trust the Federal Reserve. You call me naive if you want, but I actually have a lot of faith in our independent agencies in the United States. And if the Fed doesn't think that we should lower interest rates, I'm kind of on their side with this one, regardless of what people like Trump think. Because Trump's not an economist. He doesn't understand how the economy works. Of course, he wants interest rates lowered, but there's a reason why the Fed controls the interest rates and they're an independent agency. It's so that the president cannot just influence the economy and send things spiraling out of control. If we want to lower prices, we have to increase demand. Right? I understand that interest rates do not directly lead to prices, but it's all a part of our economy, right? And a big part of interest rates is purchasing homes. And the reason why homes are so expensive is lack of supply. So there needs to be an all-out initiative to get more and more homes built in the United States, especially homes that people like me can afford going into, our first home buying. Right? We need to be building more homes that are 2-bedroom, single-family homes, right? Small starter homes that are, you don't have a humongous yard. You're not going to be raising a family there, right? It's just big enough for you and your partner to live in for, the first few years of your marriage, first few years of you all being together, until you get more secure in your job, you're making more money, you can afford to purchase a bigger home, start your family and everything like that, right? They're not meant to be a long-term solution. Meant for young people like me to live in. Because right now, in the market that I live in, there's no homes options like that. There isn't. It's 3+ bedroom homes that are all selling for between, I would say, $400,000 and $500,000 in my area. And that's just the fact of the matter. And young people cannot afford these things, right? So if we want to lower housing price, you got to increase the supply to meet the demand, so housing prices go down. And it might be purchasing some older neighborhoods that have maybe 50 houses in them, tearing all the houses down and building 100 houses on top of them that are all half the size. Might have to be that way. But that increases supply. And it gives people a home. And it gets people out of renting like I have to. So I'm kind of on the Fed side with this. So we'll see what happens. They've already cut rates slightly this year, which is a good. The rates are not going up, right? Rates could be going up. They could be worse. I'd rather the rates stay the same than have them go up. But going down is, of course, always better, but only if the economy can handle it. Let's go and move on to our last story today. How Australia plans to ban under 16 from social media. So Australia has been working to ban social media accounts for under 16-year-olds, which I have been a huge supporter of, by the way. And it's finally passed. So I want to read this article, and then we kind of have a follow-up to this. So it's from the Stratus Times. Australia will soon ban under 16s from the likes of Facebook and TikTok, a world-first move of huge interest to those who are worried about the harms of social media. Internet regulators the world over are watching to see if Australia can rein in the tech giants. But questions remain as the ban approaches on December 10th. Here's what we know about how Australia will enforce the new restrictions. Starting December 10th, some of the world's largest social media platforms will be forced to remove all users under the age of 16 in Australia. Hundreds of thousands of adolescents are expected to be impacted, with Instagram alone reporting about 350,000 Australian users aged 13 to 15. Not every Australian will have to prove their age, only those suspected of falling foul of the ban. And young users will still be able to access some social media without logging in. They just cannot register for their own accounts. Social media platforms will be held responsible for weeding out underage accounts. A number of trials have looked at different ways to do so, but the Australian government has so far refused to settle on a universally agreed method. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, has stated deactivating accounts based on information such as age given what they were created. Account holders flagged by mistake could verify their age by using a video selfie or by providing government-issued ID, Meta said. Which platforms fall under the ban continues to be debated. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok are covered, as are streaming platforms including Kick and Twitch. YouTube was added despite the government's suggestion that it would be impacted so that children could watch lessons online. Other popular apps and websites such as Roblox, Pinterest, and WhatsApp are currently exempt, but the list remains under review. Australia expects rebellious teens will do their best to skirt the laws. Guidelines warn they may try to upload fake IDs or use AI to make their photo appear older. Platforms are expected to devise their own means to stop this happening. Of course, no solution is likely to be 100% effective all of the time, the Internet Safety Watchdog has said. Australia concedes the ban will be far from perfect at the outset, and some underage users will fall through the cracks as issues are ironed out. But platforms face the threat of 32 million US dollars fines if they fail to take reasonable steps to comply. It remains unclear how Australia's internet safety regulators would interpret or enforce what counts as reasonable. Reasonable steps mean platforms have to act to enforce the restrictions in a way that is just the appropriate in the circumstances, the regulators' guidelines say. So let's hear from some of the people impacted. So Australia's landmark move to ban under 16s from social media will be closely watched by other countries, which could follow suit with similar laws. Agnes France-Pressy spoke to teenagers and adults around the world about the Australian ban, which comes in on December 9th. Here are some of their reactions. So the first one I wanted to read is from Berlin. So in the chilly German capital, Luna Dwells 13, or Dwirls 13, is watching selfie-style TikTok clips posted by other young people. She said the ban is actually a good thing in some ways because social media often portrays a certain image of how people should look, like girls have to be thin. Another teenager, Enno Carl Brandes, said, quote, "I'm 15, so for me the ban would definitely come into effect. I can't really imagine giving it up completely. A ban is a bit extreme, but it could definitely help to do a detox." And artificial intelligence baby singing and answering interview questions are among the videos served up to Frida Razik, 16, as she scrolls in her room. Razik is not in favor of a ban. Quote, "It's really stupid, honestly," she said, though she added that, quote, "There's not really much we can do as 16-year-olds if the government decides to act." In Australia, one family has diverging ideas on how the law will go. Quote, "I don't think the government really knows what it's doing, and I don't think it's going to have an impact on children in Australia," said 15-year-old Leighton Lewis. But his mother, Emily Lewis, hopes it will help children have better, more authentic relationships. They'll make proper plans like we used to and meet up with their friends face to face and have proper conversations, as opposed to the elusive friendship online, she said. So, there's a few things that I have to say about this before we kind of end this show off. So, number one, I'm totally in favor of getting young people off of social media as much as possible. It is a cesspool on these online platforms and is rotting the brains of young people left, right, and center. The likes of which we have no idea yet. This is all so brand new, right? So I'm perfectly in favor of it. I think keeping them off until 16 is a great idea. I'd like to see more young people absolutely meeting up with their friends, going to sports, doing what we had to do when I was a kid. I remember as I was a kid, we had dial-up internet when I was a kid. I'm only 22. I remember the dial-up internet sound in our house. We had dial-up internet. I still remember that. I'm old enough to remember that, guys. I'm an older Gen Z. I'm not one of these young folks running around who's never had a hardship. I had to go outside and play with my friends. My parents kicked me out, or else I had to do chores. So I'm totally in favor of this. This is a law that if I was 15, I would have hated it. I would have been pissed off. I would have been upset. I would not have been in favor of this. As an adult now, seeing what social media has done, I'm totally in favor of it. If you are on the fence about these social media bans, I highly encourage you to go and watch Jonathan Haidt's episode with Dr. Jordan Peterson on his podcast. Jonathan Haidt covers a whole lot of this stuff. He actually talks about the Australia ban on the show. It totally changed my mind on the whole topic of social media bans. Highly suggest you go and watch it. Some of my takeaways from all of this is, number one, what are kids getting out of social media? Absolutely nothing. You know, there was the comment of, should we allow YouTube to stay around for the learning opportunities? I think it should be an all-out ban. I want kids off of YouTube as well. I think that there's a case to be made for YouTube potentially creating a new product that only offers educational content on it. That videos that are deemed to be of high educational standard, which there are a lot of on YouTube, don't get me wrong, that would be great for kids to watch, can be served on that platform instead as a totally separate platform from going on YouTube, watching people use foul language while they're playing video games, right? Totally different thing that does to your brain. Another thing, with platforms like TikTok and Instagram, I'd like to point out to people that when we were younger, when I was younger, when you guys were younger, when we were all younger, when we watched things like television and movies, we were watching content that was created by adults, right? So when I was 8 years old and I was watching shows on TV, I was watching content that was created by 30-year-olds, right? I was watching content created by much more mature people who created content that was great for kids. I remember watching shows when I was younger. They were so good, right? TikTok is primarily a platform that is young people watching content made by other young people, right? So the maturity is not there in the content. It's just, it's almost indescribable. But there's a difference. There's a difference when you're watching a piece of media that was created by someone of your age when you're young and have no life experience versus someone who's older who has that life experience that you're watching, you know, earlier on. And the stories are different that are being told, right? One of the reasons why Star Wars is so good is it has such a good story behind it. And it goes beyond just being a space movie, for example. Same thing with Harry Potter. It goes beyond just being a fantasy story. Because it was written by someone who's an adult and had real life struggles who were writing these stories. And kids grabbed onto it, and that's great content for kids to absorb. What's on TikTok and Instagram is not so much. I'd like to also point out on social media platforms, this girl talked about, she's like, I think it's somewhat good because these social media platforms can make young girls feel like they have to be a certain weight. And that has extended to going both ways, right? We have seen people on social media platforms that have tried to convince the world that you have to be skinnier, have a certain figure to look good, perpetuating traditional beauty standards. If you have to wear a lot of makeup, if you're a woman, you have to dress a certain way, right? We've also seen the opposite end happen. We've seen people who are the body positive influencers who are overly obese, promoting the idea that it's not their fault that they're overly obese, and the whole world has to change to embrace them. And that's not okay either, right? The truth is, whatever weight you are, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily. But to sit here and try and suggest that being overly skinny or overly obese is healthy, I think that's ridiculous, and especially the whole world needs to bend around you, right? We've seen these TikTok accounts like the park size the plus size park hoppers going to the different Disney theme parks and trying to fit in the seats, and the people who are getting on the airplane saying that the airplane seats are too small because they're far too fat to fit into them, and that they need to make bigger airplane seats, or they should be able to buy 2 airplane seats for the price of 1 because they're so fat to fit into them. It's sad to see that, and I'm not hating on an individual for being overweight, right? That's okay, right? We all have different lives, we all have different struggles in our life, but just as you can't sit here as a skinny person and act like the whole world needs to be built around you, you need to make airplane seats smaller because it's far too big for you. You can't sit here and say that we need to make airplane seats bigger because you're choosing to live your life in a certain lifestyle. So overall, I think social media bans are great. I think that the age verification will be the biggest issue because right now I haven't heard necessarily how they're going to be verifying things necessarily. I think that adult websites should have the same exact age verification on them. There are so many different providers of age verification out there right now that are secure, that anyone can use, that does not retain information, that simply checks to see if you are of an age or not based on your identification, and it gives you a yes or no, and then you can go onto the site. You can create an account on there whatsoever. So I'm fully in favor of using that, and I don't see a downside to it. I don't. And the notion that children need to be on sites like Instagram and TikTok, I think is entirely laughable and completely ridiculous because they really don't. I didn't need to be getting on those sites when I was younger either. Now, I use them effectively. I was not addicted to them, but there's so many kids who are. I mean, it's insane how addicted to phones young people are these days. It's kind of wild. And in part, that is social media. So that's all I gotta say, folks. With that, I will be back here on Thursday for another show with you all. Once again, next Tuesday, a week from today, will be our last show of season 3. We'll be coming back in the new year with new shows, but I will be taking some time off. We'll be doing some background, some behind the scenes work with the show, make it even better for you all. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the show. If you have feedback for the show, send me a message, tweet at me. Let me know if there's anything you want to see covered on Thursday. Make sure you're resharing the show with friends. The more and more people are watching the show, the bigger and bigger it will become, and the easier it will become to get the show done, right? More viewers are always better, right? So let people know how much you love this show. Let people know how great of a commentator I am. And with that, we'll be back here at 6 p.m. on Thursday with yet another episode. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have suggestions on how you'd like to see the show changed, send me a message if you have any of them. So I'm gonna be looking through all of those. So let me know. I'm all ears. But with that, I've been Nathan Hale. This has been Spins Like Alive. I will see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye.